I'm Danny. I'm the high school pastor here, and I've been married almost 15 years to my wife, Nitsa, who is right over here somewhere, right there. And she's the mom to our 5 kids. We have 4 boys, ages 8, 6, 5, 4, and then a little girl who's 2 years old. And yeah, moms. Isn't it true that moms have a special way of seeing things that us dads just totally miss? Some of you moms turned to one of us even this morning and said, "Those clothes don't match." We didn't see that. Not much goes unnoticed by moms. A while back, I came home, asked, "Do you know where the remote is?" And my wife said, "Yes." Don't ask me how I know this, but it's under the couch in the corner behind the shoe. And that's funny, but that stuff happens more than you would think, because moms just are experts at knowing where things are. You know, mom has given moms these abilities because, the reason you have these abilities is because you care about us, and God's made you that way. God knew that we would need help. God's created you moms with the ability to conceive life and to nurture that life in the womb, and then after birth, and then for the life of your child, and He's built you so that you have an ability to care for and to nurture your children, and He's put a love in your heart that compares to no other love on this earth. And so, moms, in that, you guys reflect to your children important aspects, attributes of God that are very important. And so I was just thinking of a couple things that I've been amazed by. And one of those things is this: moms don't have the luxury to do things one thing at a time, or to focus on one thing at a time. And so, moms, you have the incredible ability to multitask. I walk in sometimes, maybe after work, and I come in and I see my wife working hard in the home, and not in the relatively peaceful environment that I got to in my office here at church, but in chaos, as each kid almost simultaneously is fighting and pulling for her attention or needing her attention. Maybe they're crying, which happens about every 5 minutes because they got hurt. Or maybe, "Mom, look at me." Or, "Mom, I'm hungry." Or, "Mom, I need your help." Or the best from the bathroom, "Mom, I'm ready." And moms, you know, they still have stuff they're getting done, and they're laying their life down and what they want to get accomplished down to care for all those needs. And I just stand back and times watch my wife be able to hear all of them. I couldn't have done that. I would have, tunnel vision. But she hears them all, sees the needs, and is able to address them and respond with a lot more ability and love and patience than I'm able to. And she thrives in that. I know that my wife doesn't always, or maybe doesn't usually, feel that she's thriving. Maybe rarely she feels that way, but I look at her and I see she's thriving because she's doing something utterly important that not many people, that me as a dad, I just think, I can't do that. Isn't it true that from the youngest of ages, children, they go to their mom for things that they need? They don't go to their dad nearly as often as they go to mom. When they're hurt, who do they look for comfort? When they need something, help, they go to mom. The other day, my 2-year-old daughter was saying, "Mom, Mom, Mom, Mom," as Nitsa was giving her attention to one of her other kids. And so when I'm home, what I noticed that all of our kids still go to her. They don't ask me for any help. So I try to intervene and insert myself to try to relieve her a bit. And so I said, "Shiloh, Dad's here. I can help you." And she looked at me with a stern, cute face and said, "No, Dad, I said Mom." And that's pretty typical. And often when they do tell me what they need, I reluctantly have to conclude, "Yeah, you better ask for Mom. Ask Mom for that." Mom, you have the ability to know your kids in a deeper way more than anybody else. How many of you dads are like me that up until, I'd say, about the age of 3, half the time I could not understand what they were trying to say to me? And so Mom is the toddler translator of the house, and so I turn to her for an accurate translation after they've repeated themselves a couple times. Moms, you know your kids. And the way that you know your kids, and the way that you love your kids, and the way that you lay your life down and you meet their needs, these things make a kid feel so special. And all the big things you do and the little things you do, or the hugs and kisses that you give, or the special food, the favorite food that you prepare, or the birthday parties that you plan out months in advance. I'm glad it wasn't up to me. It'd be the day before. Those things are critical to making your children feel so special. And we all want our kids to believe with all their heart, God loves me, and He always will. And moms are the ones that show their children this. Moms are the ones that reflect that reality of God, because that's what kids first look to, and they say, Mom loves me, and she always will. Because moms, you reflect a God who will care and listen all the time, that we can go to no matter what, and that knows us deeply personally, and whose love will not fail. We know that God created Adam first. He placed Adam in the garden, and he was over the garden and the animals, and everything was good. But there's one thing, it said it was not good, right? It was not good for man to be alone. And of course, God had a purpose in this. It represented His order and the fact that He was giving authority and leadership to Adam. But I was just reflecting how also in that God gave a chance for Adam to experience life without Eve. And to come to realize how much he needed her and to be able to appreciate her more fully. God does the same thing for us dads here at Foothills. It's called Women's Retreat. Yeah. Mom's another reason for you guys to go. Sometimes we need help to fully recognize and fully appreciate the job that you do and how much we need you and how much we couldn't do it without you. And much more could be said about this, but enough from me. Let's see what kids have to say about moms.
Okay, guys, we are writing a song based off of what you guys think about your moms. So I have a question. Abby, what should we call this song that you guys are writing that someone else is going to sing?
A great mom. I love mama.
The mama beat.
Moms are very beautiful.
Lovable mama.
The awesome day of the mothers.
The awesome day of the mothers. What does your mother want? Think about this for Mother's Day.
She really likes glass stuff. Like if there's Jesus.
Glass Jesuses? I think I'd like that too.
A new phone case.
How old's your mom?
They told me the secret. It was 52.
Oh, she told him the secret.
If your mom was a superhero, what would her superpower be?
Probably ice powers. Because when she wants something frozen, she has to put it in the freezer for a long time. Her would be Speedy.
Speedy, I like that name. And what would she do with her speed power?
Oh, she would have it to help her clean up our house.
So she'd clean up really fast. But you know, it'd be a problem with Speedy is what happens when she spanked you? Would it hurt more?
No.
But she's way more speedy.
No, I'll just be faster.
Flowers. Grow a fence of flowers in front of someone.
A lover. She would hug me and kiss me.
Oh, she'd hug you and kiss you. Would she?
And she would pray before I go to bed.
Does she already have that superpower?
Yeah.
What, your mom's a superhero?
Not really. Making food really fast.
What would she use a superpower to do? Make food for who?
Guinea pigs.
Guinea pigs?
Well, she already has a superpower, and that's being good at everything.
No offense, but when she's mad to not yell a lot. No offense.
What does your mom do a lot of?
Works.
What does she do for a living?
She takes care of us.
She takes care of you. It's a lot of work, huh?
She stays home and takes care of us, actually.
Does she get paid enough to do that?
No.
No. What does your mom do better than your dad?
Cook.
Cook. What does your mom cook?
Shower. Not dropping stuff on the floor.
Oh, does your dad drop stuff on the floor all the time?
Cooking food.
Cooking food. So does your dad just not cook, or?
No, he just grabs leftovers, cook them up in the microwave, and just heat them up, and here's dinner.
If you were left home without your mom, what would it be like? What would you do?
My mom comes everything down. My dad makes messes, so it would be a mess.
What does she do that just makes you laugh?
Tickle me.
She talks in a really weird voice.
What is your favorite thing about your mom, Mark?
That she's nice and she's beautiful and that I love her.
Oh, that's great.
That she has a soft heart.
What makes your mom proud of you, Austin?
When I hit the ball in baseball.
Before school, when I wake up early and I get dressed and I make my bed and I clean my room and then I eat breakfast and then I brush my teeth and then I get my lunchbox out of the fridge and I put it inside my backpack.
That would make me proud too.
Mama, for this Mother's Day, we wrote a song for you about your nice soft heart and all the things you do, and cooking hugs and tickles and funny voices too. You're beautiful, even though you're secretly 52. We love you, Mom. You don't drop stuff on the floor. We love you, Mom. You should get paid more. We love you, Mom. Dad just makes a mess. We love you, Mom. You cook salad the best. We love you, Mom. We love you, Mom. Some may wish for powers like not yelling, no offense, or speed to spank more quickly, but please not more intense. Or flowers, ice, or loving, or food for guinea pigs. But you don't need a power, Mom. You're the best there is. We love you, Mom. You don't drop stuff on the floor. We love you, Mom. You should get paid more. We love you, Mom. Dad just makes a mess. We love you, Mom. You cook salad the best. We love you, Mom. We love you, Mom. Do the mama beat. Do the mama beat. Do the mama beat. Yeah, do the mama beat. We love you, Mom. We love you, Mom. Mom, for you, I'd hit the ball and make the double play. Or get another Jesus for your glass Jesus display. I'll buy you a new phone case and other stuff that's cool. And even when I wake up early, I'll get dressed and make my bed and clean my room and eat breakfast and brush my teeth and get my lunchbox out of the fridge and put it inside my backpack every day before school. We love you, Mom. You don't drop stuff on the floor. We love you, Mom. You should get paid more. We love you, Mom. Dad just makes a mess. We love you, Mom. You cook salad the best. We love you, Mom. We love you, Mom. We love you,
Thank you, guys. That was fantastic. That was really amazing. You know, kids have perceptions about us, but they love us because we love them. So one thing that moms are really good at is telling stories. So there's never a time when you tell a story to a kid at bedtime and they say, thanks, that's enough. I want to go to bed now. There's always more. So I'm going to tell you 2 stories. Very short, but one comes from the Bible, and it says, there was a landowner who planted a vineyard and put a wall around it and put a wine press in it and built a tower and rented it out to vine growers and went on a journey. And when the harvest time approached, he sent his slaves to the vine growers to collect his fruit. Now that's a story about Jesus and us. The earth belongs to a king. He's just renting it out to us. You are the vine grower, not the owner. He's given you things to grow, and then he went away. He's going to come back, and he's going to ask you to give an account of the fruit that you produced in the field that he gave you. And his word was going to be important because it was going to teach you how to grow things. And if you're a mom, you have important things to grow. You have children that are a gift. They're not exclusively yours, and there's an expectation from the landowner, from the king, that something is going to be produced in them. That's the first story. If you're putting kids to bed, another story, another story. So here's the second. 2 cargo boats left Memphis about the same time and were traveling down the Mississippi towards New Orleans. In the process, as they traveled side by side, the sailors from one of the boats began to make derogatory remarks to the sailors in the other boat about the slow pace that they were traveling. So words were exchanged, insults were made, challenges happened, and the race began. And the competition got vicious. And as one boat began to fall behind the other boat, one enterprising sailor grabbed something heavy and threw it overboard. And the other sailors in the ship said, hey, and they began to throw heavy things overboard. And as they did, the boat lightened and they began to go faster, and pretty soon they passed up the other ship and they won the race. But in the process, they lost much of the precious cargo that was entrusted to them that they were assigned to transport. The sailors lost sight of their purpose in the midst of the competition, and they decided wrongly what it meant to win the race. So the point of those 2 stories is that God has entrusted to us some pretty special, precious cargo, our children, our families, our souls, and if I define my purpose wrongly, precious cargo is going to get lost. And in the end, a king will sit with me one day and ask what I did with the children that were on loan to me. So if I had to title this talk, I would title it, Who Am I? Mark said one time, the 2 most important days of your life is number 1, the day you're born, and number 2, the day you realize why you were born. Because God created us for a purpose. He had a purpose in mind when he made each one of us. And Paul in Corinthians said this. He said, there's varieties of gifts, varieties of ministry, varieties of effect, but the same God who works all things in all persons, who apportions to each one of them as he determines. So the king went away and he apportioned duties and gifts and responsibilities. And if you're a mom, the king gave you an incredibly valuable job description. But the problem is that in motherhood, it's like a whirlwind of duties and mundane necessities. And it starts to lose its fun, and you start to ask the question, why am I doing this? Is it valuable? I'm really tired. And you stand in the midst of dirty diapers and dirty faces and sibling rivalry and sickness and meal after meal and shopping and teenagers who challenge every single word that you say. And one day, every mother on earth says, who am I? Who am I? Anyone could do what I'm doing right now. You're not doing the things you used to do, and you're not doing things you thought you would be doing. And when I was a young mom, Mark and I would end up at dinner parties, and there would always be some well-dressed, successful lawyer type who would talk about her life, and then she'd say, and what do you do? And after a few embarrassing, inadequate times, I crafted an answer. So I'm going to tell you that answer, and I'm going to put some pictures to that. I began to tell people, well, I major in childhood development conflict resolution, and pain management. I have multiple minors in nursing and in the culinary arts. I work with the city in search and rescue, especially minor children and toddlers. I'm involved in a brain study, goal setting the effects of constant interruptions. I aid the Justice Department working with children with criminal tendencies, early detection and prevention. And I'm currently collaborating with the DMV in health and safety, asking the question whether vehicles of young families promote disease or whether they're relatively innocuous. I'm actually quite busy, and what is it you do? But most of the time, I felt kind of fearful that everyone was doing something more valuable than what I was doing. So I want to ask the question, how do we determine who we are? The answer is that we are not something that we discover. You're not going to go out there and realize your potential. We are not something we discover, but something we determine by our choices and by our commitments. I just want to say that again. We're not something we discover, but something that we determine by our choices and by our commitments. I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother. I was a teacher for 14 years. I direct women, and each comes with a responsibility that takes me outside of myself. And God uses all those things to build character. Like a master craftsman, he's building something because we're essentially our character, and our character is something that we are free to develop. God values certain things. There's certain things he's looking in that garden. He's looking for certain things for you to produce, and he says it in his word. It says in Galatians 5, these are the kinds of things that God is looking. I want you just to look at those up there. Wherever your garden is, wherever field you're in, he's looking for the fruit to become these things. Are you growing in love? Joy? Peace? Are patience and kindness being produced? Goodness? Is faithfulness being produced in your field? Gentleness? Self-control? Because I can determine what are the most valuable things because they're things I get to take with me when I leave this world. And the Lord said, use the temporary things that you have to gain the eternal things. And he gives us bents and he gives us gifts, and people can help us determine what those are. But in the end, those are just things to be used to gain eternal things. So God, the field that God gave you to grow in his image is determined by him. So all of a sudden, in the middle of this, a child comes into your field, and there's constant demands, and you don't get to be the most important the most important person. And growth in love requires dying to yourself all the time. It says in the Bible, if a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it begins to produce something. It begins to blossom. It begins to yield something. So death brings life, and selflessness brings life. And your needs get subjugated because of love when you're a mom. You've been chosen to babysit for God. It's the most important task you are ever going to do. And it doesn't matter how you got the child. You have a job description to raise and train a soul for God. And they can't raise themselves. And sometimes in the middle of this, some kid wanders into your field that has been left alone, that's on his own, that nobody has taken care of. And I think that when they wandered into your field, that it was really God asking you, do you have enough love in your family for this one who's on his own? Somebody abdicated their duty, and I need someone else to love this one. And when my mom had 8 children, I was 12 at the time, I was one of the oldest, and she got a phone call from a missionary who was in Oaxaca, Mexico, and said, we have a problem. We have a real serious situation with a 16-year-old Mexican, and we'd like to bring him to the States. Would you take him in? And she had, trembling, had to say, well, do we have enough love in our family to take in one that isn't born from us? And they said yes, and he came in, and we learned from him, and he learned from us, and he became our brother. So I don't know what's in your field, But one of the questions you have to ask is our field big enough to bring another one in? Now, this mothering is an art. And the art of mothering is to teach the art of living to your children. So I'm going to go through some points that, real quickly, that the Lord wants us to teach the children in the field that we've been given. Number one, we got to lead them to Christ. We need to tell them stories, but more importantly, we need to let them see the Spirit of Jesus in us. We need to teach them the Christian faith, but we need to live the faith out before them. We need to teach them how to pray, but even better if they see you and hear you pray. We need to remind them constantly, like Danny was saying, that they're special to God and that they're special to us. I used to grab my kids' faces all the time, and I would say, I am so glad God gave you to me. It told them that they came from someone else, they were on loan to me, they were loved, but He was the Lord of their lives. We need to feed their bodies to give them strength and health. That just takes time. McDonald does not know how to do that. We got to respect one another in the home so that they learn what real love looks like. And we got to keep them close to church and to youth group. And we got to make that more important than the things that have temporary worth. And we got to teach them a skill so they can feel confident. Competence breeds confidence, not empty flattery. I can say, you're so wonderful and you're so good and you're so great, but one day they're going to look around and say, I'm not really, unless I have built a skill, unless we as a family have built a skill that gives them confidence. So that in the end, like it was said of Jesus, the child grew, he became strong, he was filled with wisdom, and the grace of God was on him. Now, in the course of life, I want to say that precious cargo can throw itself overboard. And this usually happens between 13 and 21. They just jump ship. And you warn them and you tell them there's sharks out there. The waters are deep. You don't know these waters, and they swear they do. They swear they do. And I want to remind you that Jesus has search and rescue boats out there. They're all over the place. And if you have someone who's willful and hard and strong-hearted, they may have a harder road to go. We all want them to have an easier road, but God's still in it. He's molding them. He's crafting them through this hard thing. You need to love well, probably deeper than you ever intended to, through the things that deeply disappointed you and disappointed them. And you need to speak life. You don't need to say, you've embarrassed us, you've shamed us. You need to say, you know what, son, this is going to make it harder for you. But I know that you're an overcomer, and you're going to overcome this, and we're going to walk through this with you. You speak life, and then you pray for search and rescue boats. And also, to know the truth about the art of living, you've just got to go to the scriptures. They've got to be your guide. And you can't throw away the hard parts. You have to meditate and pray and ask, what does this mean for me right now? For example, Titus 2:5. It says, older women, we have a job for you. We want you to encourage the younger women to love their husbands, to love their children, to be sensible, pure, workers in the home, kind, being subject to their own husbands so that the word of God will not be dishonored. These are things God values, and civilization is going to rise or fall on whether we Christians decide to see this as fulfilling. I read a quote, one of my most favorite quotes. Gorbachev, who was the former leader of communist Russia, made all kinds of changes to society to modernize it and increase production. And in most cases, both parents went out into the field to work. And the children were more and more cared for by the state, and they began to have problems. And this is what, a few years into it, that Gorbachev said. He said, we have discovered that many of our problems in children and young people's behavior, in our morals, in the culture, and in production are partially caused by the weakening of family ties and the slack attitude to family responsibility. This is a paradoxical or perplexing result of our sincere desire to make women equal with men in everything. Russia is now looking for ways to make it possible for women to return to their purely womanly mission. So they restructured society, and everybody got what they wanted, and everybody began to lose, especially the most precious cargo. And it became evident the indispensable value of the mom, undistracted, holding the family together. So I want to make 3 important points. Number 1, make your home a priority. It's where love is first realized and understood. Often we hear people, you need to realize your potential. Don't give yourself away to everybody else. But what that often means is leaving a God-given responsibility in order to become more self-centered. And we say, well, I want the world to love me, so I'm going to value what it values, and I'm going to do what it tells me to do. But can I just tell you, they don't know real love, and they're really fickle, and everything they have to give you is temporary, and it doesn't satisfy for very long. So you have to remember, you're not something that you're going to discover. You're something that you determine by your choices and by your commitments. And there's just some things that are first and some things that are second. So do the first best. Use all your gifts with abandon in the most important field so that when you arrive at your destination, you'll have done excellently with the precious cargo that's been entrusted to you. Now, as I was thinking about this, I texted my middle son, Bryce, who lives in Tennessee. He left when he was 21. He's 31 now. And I was just thinking, what do kids remember? When they get older and they think back to family, what do they remember? So I asked him, I said, without thinking really hard about this, just whatever comes to your mind right away, tell me what you remember. Now, he's a comic, so I thought he'd just come back with all kinds of things, right? But he was actually really serious, and he said, you guys made it loving and welcoming for me and my friends, and you always cooked dinner. Do you know how many men say that? You cook dinner. In fact, I asked Mark one time, he said, I love you. And I said, why do you love me? And he says, because you cook for me. And I said, no, really? And he went, no, really. So Bryce said it too. He said, you guys made it loving and welcoming for me and my friends. He said, Monday night, family night, we would go surfing in the morning, we'd have dinner together, and we'd go to a movie. Traditions were an important part for him. He said, you guys were a constant force of love and encouragement my whole life. You didn't let us settle for good enough, but you also let us fail, and you helped us through it. He said, you let us do dangerous things, like jumping off the roof of the back pool house into the pool. And I'm pretty sure that was Mark who let him do that. But there is a time when you have to let Dad lead in things that are uncomfortable for you because risk and danger is just a part of boys and life and growing up. And then finally he said, home was a safe place when life got complicated and I did things that made me sick to my stomach. There was home. There was a place of belonging, no matter who screwed up, how bad they screwed up. Somebody has to make a home. And if you're a mom, you were God's first choice. And if you're a primary breadwinner, you have to work outside the home because of your circumstances, then work really hard to find a place for your children that feels like a home. Number 2, you are not in competition with the father of the child. The child is half you, and it is half them. And a child needs safety and security. And the more unity you have with a father, the more secure that kid is going to be. If you're not married, if the father is risky, when you criticize, that child internalizes it and becomes defensive toward the dad and hardens their heart toward you. So speak the best you can and let life show them the rest. If there's lots of risk, they're going to learn that. They're going to see it. It's going to become clear to them. And number 3, if you're married, then partnership is a part of God's assignment for you. 2 parents, each pursuing their own path of fulfillment, usually puts the precious cargo at risk. 2 parents, each asking, God, what do you want to do with us as a team, gives great security to the children on loan to you. I worked full-time 1 year when the 2 kids went into school. That year I decided I could work full-time. And it really threw everything into chaos, and home got weak. So we sat down, we rethought the plan, we reworked it, And we worked a system where if I was going to work, it would be 3 days. And we were not rich. But home got strong again, and there was lots of love. And Mark and I try to partner in everything. And sometimes we just disagree, like on the color of the piano room. So until last month, it was the same color as when we moved in 14 years ago, because Mark is a very content man. I would say, it's just too dark in here. He'd say, but I like the color that it is. So it stayed. Or I'd get a rug, and I'd say, I'd like to change this rug out. And he'd say, oh, I like the one that's there. Or I'd get a picture and say, I'm thinking of putting this picture on the wall. And he said, I like the one on the wall. And one day he came home, and I said, this is not working. We need new kids. And he said, I like the ones we have. And so they stayed. So you have to find fulfillment in the partnership and work through the hard things to come to a great relationship. Because romance ebbs and flows as you work through difficult things. And as you work through those difficult things, love becomes much deeper. And you are so glad that you did that. But the enemy uses that difficult times to tell you to look for a way out, easier relationship. But the truth is, there's a way through. And if you struggle and you fight to find the way through, love is going to deepen. And sometimes you struggle just for the sake of the precious cargo to make their tender hearts more important, or the most important consideration in that. When I was really struggling and worried and fearful about my purpose, I was crying in the car one day, and the kids were in the back, and I thought, I'm going to be just like my mom. She had 8 kids, and she just took care of kids. And I heard the Lord right at that moment say, and she had the greatest love of all. She laid down her life for her children. And it hit me that as I had been reading the Bible, and the Bible talks about the greatest things and the lesser things, it had said in that I could give my possessions to feed the poor, surrender my body to be burned, but if I had not love, it would profit me nothing. Greater love has no man than he lay down his life for a friend, for a child. And I realized in that moment, I had been praying and asking for love, and God was giving it to me in this curriculum, and I was crying. So I decided that day that I was going to do this. As long as this was I was going to do this, and I was going to do it well, and I was going to have fun. So the question I should have been asking was not, who am I, but what am I becoming in the field that the Lord has placed me in? And when the landowner returns to collect his fruit, I will give in my very, very best to see that the kids in my charge grew, became strong, were filled with wisdom, and that the grace of God was on them. And if they jumped ship in the process, that the seeds of return were planted deeply in their souls. So I just want to ask right now, for you as moms, I'm actually going to ask every woman to just close your eyes and lift your hands like this. And I'm going to pray a blessing on you guys. Lord, you have given us a weighty job. I need more love than I really have. I need an increase in my life. And you made a promise. You talked to the woman at the well, and you said to her, if you knew who I was, you would ask me, and I would give you living waters. Lord, we have to pour out so much. We need these living waters. So we're asking you now, fill us. Give us more that we can give on your behalf. We want to be filled to overflowing with your kindness, with your gentleness, with your goodness. But we need more of you. So we ask you, Lord, give us these living waters that we might give back to you a produce from the field that you've given us. Amen.